Welcome to 949 Racing and Supermiata. We're going to show you how we do our alignments here. We use these cool hub stands. I believe these are hubstands.com is where you can get these. Basically an aluminum setup plate there with a bushing and a bearing in here so that allows the camber to move and the toe to move. And then these little sticks here clip in that you can measure your toe across with your string setup. These here are clearly built for stock cars because they're too tall for us. We can't match our stock tire height, and they hit our puny little Miata brakes. In fact, we have to loosen up the caliper here to get it to clear. So minor thing, just loosen the caliper, put a spacer in there, and in the back here we had to grind a little notch. You can see that little notch there. We had to grind in the toe stick. And then we had to re-straighten it because the heat of grinding it bent that thing. So we had to, and this is real important that this is dead straight in here. So anyway, you set up your strings. We use the Iron Canyon Motorsports ICM. Get that in there. IronCanyonMotorsports.com. Those are specially built for the Miata. They have an NA and an NB setup, and they come with these blue rods that are very precisely machined. Try to make those at home and get those notches exactly the same length on both rods is very difficult, so don't bother. Just buy their kit. They fit on the stock bumper skins. We've run these things on modified bumper skins, and they just kind of set out a little bit, but that seems to work. They have notches in here for different track widths and wheel widths, so we run the narrowest one, so it's easier to get a measurement off there. What you do is you set these up so that the strings are parallel, so you'll go over here and make a measurement, and let's say, for example, if that's 60 millimeters and you measure the other side and it's 65, then you know the string is too far to that side, and you bump the string over by sliding this whole rod over in the fixture until you know it's square, and then you do the same in the back, and that way you know the strings are square with the hubs. Now the body might be some funny angle, but the body doesn't really matter. All it really matters is where your contact patches are. When you're doing that, of course, you want to make sure that your steering wheel is dead straight. And then you're set to do your alignments. And what the nice thing about the hub stands is that we can reach, while we're standing here, nice comfortable position, we can reach our eccentric adjusters under there, and we can reach our preload collars. And if you have like one of the Japanese JDM style adjustable length coilovers, you can reach the bottom of it there and change the shock length. And if you have it set up on your scales like we do, you can actually be looking at your corner weights while you're changing the ride heights. And if you make a drastic change, for example, changing the caster, or particularly changing the camber in front, it'll actually change your corner weights a little bit. And if you go to align a car and you set it on the scales and it's recently had like new tie rods or something and your toe's all out of whack, you'll look at your scales and you'll have a number and everything will look groovy, and then you go to change your toe and the caster will actually change the weight jack on that corner, and then your scales will show different readings, so different cross weights. So it's a good idea to set the car on the scales before you start your alignment, get a baseline, and then as you're doing the alignment, keep an eye on your corner weights, and then when you're all aligned, do your corner weights last. And if you make a gross corner weight change, like if you're only making like say one turn on a coilover, for a production car, that's close enough in terms of alignment. But if you make a huge change in here, you find out that you need, let's say, 3 or 4 turns, and you're dropping one corner a ½ inch or something massive like that, well, that's going to change your camber, and you got to go back in and change your camber again. So it's a bit of an iterative process. You do one, you come back, do the other thing, and you come back and do the other thing. And people ask me, do I do toe first or do camber first? Well, I usually try to get the toe close in the neighborhood. I start with my camber settings, and then I come back and check my toe once I've got my baseline camber settings. So I kind of go back and forth between the two. I haven't done this yet, but you want to disconnect one sway bar on each side here. I usually just disconnect one on the right, one right front, one right rear, so that the sway bars are taken out of the corner weight equation. And then when they're all done, when these are still on the hub stands, you can go ahead and link your sway bar back up. You want to link your sway bar, and then basically on our end links that we make for the Miata, these are all 17 millimeter wrench flat. So you basically just loosen up the jam nut here, and you can just do this with your fingers. You'll just turn this until you feel there's no resistance. You'll turn it one way, you'll feel it get tight, turn it the other way, and it's basically expanding and contracting the end link, which is preloading the bar, and you'll feel one spot where it has no resistance. You lock down your nuts, the jam nuts, and you're basically done. It's real simple to use those end links. And you want to set these end links up where they're both are in the middle of the pivot zone. So in other words, you don't want to have this one fully bound this way and that one fully bound that way, because as it compresses, it'll basically snap the end link, or it'll cause the sway bar to bind, and you don't have good movement. What you're looking for in a suspension is to eliminate friction. So we're using like the Prothane and energy suspension urethane bushings, which act like a bearing. Basically, it's on a rotating pin. We use Heim jointed end links, that are free here. We use a Torrington bearing underneath the spring. We use spherical bearings inside in the shock mount. So trying to get get rid of as much friction as possible so that the suspension can move freely. That's one of the reasons, for example, like a Miata with these Zeta coilovers goes over bumps so well. There's no friction in the system, very low friction. So anyway, that's the basics of getting a car set up to do alignment. Obviously, you can do this with the wheels on the car, and everything works exactly the same. What you'll do is you'll take a ruler, which I don't happen to have in my hand like a dummy, and you'll take the ruler and just line it up against, touch the rim of the wheel in the front, in the back, and that'll get your measurement. So let's say you'll have 40 millimeters here and 41 millimeters here. Well, that tells you that it's closer here. That means the wheel's towed out, so you get a 1 millimeter of toe out on that corner. So you can do this with the wheels on. The downside is it's a little harder to reach the adjusters, and of course it's basically impossible to reach the coilover sleeve, so you end up having to do the ride height afterwards. You have to pull the wheel back off. So it's these hubstands are a bit of an investment, but they take a lot of time. If you're doing alignments constantly like we are, these save us a lot of time. I think that's about it. Oh yeah, and one last little thing. I put a piece of blue tape on the fender when I'm doing alignment, and I write my notes on it. Things like ride height, number of shock turns, camber, before and after settings, corner weight, stuff like that. Jot it down there. That kind of gives you a start. So it's real easy to lose track. These are cabled scales. We also have a set of wireless scales that we like to use, but we broke one of the pads, so we got to send that back to Longacre to get repaired. And I think that about does it. All right. See you soon.